A long time ago, in 1963, I worked in New York City while I was staying with my brother during the summer. I had a job as an elevator operator in a very tall condominium where the people who lived there were very rich. There were 2 elevators, and I worked the graveyard shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And the other elevator operator was named Pedro Crespo Conti from Puerto Rico. Pedro was a womanizer, a mujeriego. He was always telling me of his adventures. He told me he even had some adventures in the condominium. Anyway, one day he said to me, "Pablo, I want to teach you a poem in Spanish. And when you learn this poem and recite it to a young woman from Puerto Rico, she will fall in love with you. What do you think?" I said, "Sure." I mean, it was the graveyard shift. I said, "Sure, Pedro, let's do it." And so every night for about a week or so, he wrote out the words, and he would help me with the pronunciation, and I memorized the poem. I was 19 years old. It was my first Spanish lesson. He translated the poem for me. And you know what? The first stanza is still in my head. You can see the poem. I put the poem wherever I put the poem. I attached the poem by Jose Hernandez. And the way that I remember the first stanza, which is fixed in my mind, is like this. Si Dios un día secara toda fuente de luz, el universo se alumbraría con esos ojos que tienes tú. Keep in mind, I was 19 years old. That poem has been in my head for a long time. It's good grief. I don't even want to tell you. The point of all this is not to show you how clever I am and how smart I am that I could remember a poem, but that poetry and songs, first of all, get remembered. Poetry usually because it has rhyme, or songs because they have rhyme. And all your students right now are listening to English songs. There's no doubt about it. They probably don't know much English poetry, but there's a lot of good stuff. The British English have written a lot of good stuff. There's American poems, there's Irish poems. It's a more interesting way of teaching English because then you can do, as I said in the previous video, you can break the poem down into study the vocabulary, first of all, the pronunciation. You can also do a compare and contrast. How do the English-speaking people say something and how do Spanish people say something? For example, often the word order is different. You say carro rojo and we say red car. Okay, so this is a good way to learn a language, compare and contrast. With poetry, with songs. By the way, I never recited that poem to any young woman from Puerto Rico. Not once. I was too terrified. I was very shy, a very shy guy. But I do recite it to my classes because I encourage them to learn songs. So anyway, that's my poetry recital. I got out my special tie, my jacket. I hope I look good. Thank you very much. See you later. Si Dios un día secara toda fuente de luz, el universo se alumbraría